What's up, A2D fam? Monday afternoon, more Phillies talk coming at you after a huge week for the Philadelphia Phillies. So make sure you're over here liking, subscribing, following, and let's roll the tape.
Oh my God! I'm embarrassed! He's flying!
Welcome in. It's almost time.
What's up, everybody? Hope you're having a great start to your Monday and your week. I am Chrome, sitting aside virtually. Our guy over here, Mitch Williams.
Good morning, everybody.
That's right. Lots to talk about. Phillies talk this week, kicking your week off here on Here's the Thing. But first, let's show a little bit of love to Gleason's Bar, located at 6700 Mill Creek Ave in Levittown, PA. So if you're going inside, mention A2D, or if you purchase online for pickup, just put the promo code A2D and you're going to get 10% off your orders. So make sure you check them out, Gleason's Bar and Steaks.com. Mitch, big week this week.
Oh, they're finally starting to play like the team we expected them to be like at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, well, we talked about going into September with some momentum, right? So Our opening topic here, our agree to disagree, is you have gained, and I mean, you are the guy to talk to about this because of everything we talk every week. You've gained trust back in Aaron Nola over the last 2 weeks. Do you agree or disagree?
I'm kind of in a wait and see pattern right here. I mean, because his start yesterday, you can't locate better than he located. I don't know how many punch outs he got on called third strike fastballs that were just on the black. Throwing the ball downhill, that's what Aaron Nola has to do to be successful. There's no question about the fact that the kid is a horse. He takes the ball every fifth day, goes out there and gives you an effort. I kind of struggle with the fact that he's allowed to get underneath the baseball as much as he has this year. But when he throws the ball like he did yesterday, if that's any indication of what his September is going to be like, it's going to be a different September for Aaron Nola.
Yeah, we see Big Dad dropping in here too. 58% two-seam fastballs thrown yesterday.
So he hit on top of the baseball. And how many guys did he freeze with that two-seamer away that came back and caught the outer third of the plate?
His movement was phenomenal yesterday.
He had side-to-side movement. He had down movement. And that's all because he's on top of the baseball. When he's like that, he's as good as any number one or well, I'm not going to say any number one, any number two in baseball. But he can't go out and repeat it. Last couple of times out he has. Maybe this is something that he's figured out, and going forward, this is what we're going to get from him.
Yeah, I think for me, I want to see another start or two trending in this direction, but I'm very positive on the possibility that this might be the way that he's going to be trending for the rest of the year. But you know, for me, Mitch, it's when you're taking the ball every fifth day, I need to see a little bit more than just a 2-week sample. You know,
exactly.
Give me a month, give me 3-4 weeks, give me 5 starts. Let me see how you trend over a 5-start stretch. But he's looked much better, which is what we needed. And you know, you obviously mechanically have seen things that have looked better over the last couple of weeks. So, you know, I'm curious if that's an attribution of him doing more of the film, or is he listening to the coach, or is it a combination of both?
I know he's doing everything more over the rubber right now. And when I talk about doing everything over the rubber, that means when you pick your kick leg up, it has to get to as high as it's going to go, and your hands have to break over that rubber, and then you fall. If you're falling while your leg is coming up and your hands are breaking, that's when you get under the baseball and it gets flat, and he can't keep the baseball in the ballpark. The last couple of starts, as long as he can get all the way up and back before he starts, he's going to have his fingers on top of the ball.
Now, does this, and we've talked about this over the last couple of weeks, right? When we start getting into September and we start looking at potential postseason rotations, right? Is he starting to maybe change our minds a little bit here, that maybe he should get a second look for hopping into one of those top 3 spots, maybe number 2 behind Wheeler?
Well, I can tell you this. I think it absolutely has something to do with the focus he's had the last couple of times out. Number one, he's pitching for a contract.
Mm-hmm.
So he should have been on top of this from start one this year.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact, I think Aaron Nola is looking at himself right now in the mirror and realizing he's not in that top 3. Because I'm using Wheeler, Lorenzen, and probably Ranger to put a left-hander in that rotation for the postseason. Aaron Nola has to pitch his way into that postseason rotation. And the last couple of starts, he's gone a long way in doing that.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that. And I think too, when it comes to the loyalty that's behind the organization with him as well, if he continues to show this, I think he's going to have the end simply out of the loyalty alone, adding with obviously the positive results that we're getting as of late. And it was a really strong week for the Phillies overall. Scored a whole lot of runs this past week. They went 5-1 at home with San Francisco, and then obviously with St. Louis sweeping the Cardinals pretty handily. And the one game, particularly in the Cardinals series, the first 2 games, a whole lot of runs put up on the board. And the encouraging thing with Nola, right, was you can't count on that every night. And yesterday, giving up 3 runs, St. Louis only, and that lineup, they can put up runs despite what their record says. That lineup can put up runs in bunches when they want to. I think that, it's encouraging to see when you needed the pitcher to have that game, to keep them off base, to keep the scoring down.
Yep.
He was able to step up in that moment.
Well, the thing I'm going to disagree with you about is loyalty. There is no loyalty in baseball.
I agree with you, but I just feel like it's one of those things with this organization where there's like, they're going to give a guy an edge because he's been there and give him every opportunity, even if it's
I agree with you that he's going to get every opportunity, but if his last 2 or 3 starts heading into the postseason are bad starts, there is no if there was loyalty, Aaron Nola would have signed an extension after last year.
Agreed.
There is no loyalty. And if they can do it, believe me when I tell you, if they can get through the first round of the playoffs without using him, they're going to do it. Because they don't want him to put up good postseason numbers, because it's just going to add to his price in the free agent market. If they want to bring him back, like I said, there is no loyalty. If there was loyalty, he'd have been signed last year after the season was over. So they're making him go out and prove it. And I'm sorry, he hasn't done a great job of proving it up to his last couple of starts.
Well, yeah, he's done himself no favors at all. He's made the case against himself, not the case for himself.
And that's what I talk about when they're going into the postseason. If they got Lorenzen and Wheeler as their top 2 going into the postseason, if they win games 1 and 2, I don't know that you'll see Nola in the next series. It all depends on the lineup that they're going to be facing. If it's going to be a lineup loaded with left-handers, Aaron Nola's not going to start. It's going to be Ranger as the 3rd starter.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not opposed to that. I think, even now, and that's why when we opened up, right, Mitch, I said, give me 3 or 4 week sample. Give me 5 starts. Let me see what we get out of that. I'd feel more comfortable making a decision closer to the postseason, in the next 2 weeks, seeing how he's pitching there. Tom agrees.
Look at who's this Tom Arnone dude? I agree with the poll. I think he figured some things out. He's looked better. But he's also had starts this year where he's gone out there and looked like a world beater, and then the next start can't keep the ball out of the bleachers. So it's going to take more than 2 starts for me to jump on Aaron's bandwagon and say, yes, he's fixed it. He's figured out he has to throw the ball downhill. That's why they put you on a mound, is so you can throw the ball downhill. And yesterday was a perfect example of what I've been just beating on all year long. His fingers on top of the ball so he can get the side-to-side and the downward movement on his 2-seamer. He locked really good right-handed hitters up yesterday. Paul
Yes.
Goldschmidt, he got him out, froze him away in his first at bat. Second time, he froze him in. And that
Locked them
tells
up.
me that Aaron is starting to use his four-seam fastball. I'm sorry, it's too flat. When he throws his two-seamer and he's on top of it, that's when he gets the movement. That's when he gets ground balls. The double he gave up off the wall in the first inning,
Mm-hmm.
that's just a flat four-seamer.
Yeah.
And I think from that point forward, he went to his two-seamer and started trying to locate.
Yeah.
That's called pitching. He's not going to blow you away. He throws 94, 95 at the top, but he lives around 92 or 93. And if he can do that with movement, downward movement, that's when he starts getting all the ground balls.
Yeah. And I think that in the postseason, that's success. Keep the ball down. Don't give up home runs. And that's been his issue all season, Mitch. He's given up a lot of home runs, a lot
27, I believe.
Yeah, a whole lot. At least, I don't think he gave up any this past week, if I could be wrong on that. But
Well, he didn't give up any yesterday.
yeah. But he's definitely trending in the right direction. Pitching wise this week, too, I think the Phillies have looked really strong overall, up and down the rotation. Not a whole lot of runs given up, even in big blowout games. So starting rotation wise, just overall, how are you feeling going into September?
I think Rob Thompson's got a bird's nest on the ground. I really do, meaning that you got 6 starters you can run out there and know you can win. Sanchez, what's impressed me about Sanchez is he'll fall behind early. He'll give up a run or two early, and then he settles in and starts pitching. And for a 5th or 6th starter like he is, that's pretty impressive.
Mm-hmm.
So Rob Thompson has the luxury of giving his starters, allowing them to miss a start in September. And that is going to add a bunch to the back end of this season. Being able to rest them, that's a big deal.
Yeah, I would agree. And particularly going into the playoffs too, when you have a little bit of an expanded bullpen at that point. Guys are going to be well rested. You can have your short leash, but I think that's going to really set them up and line them up really well going into the postseason. I do want to jump into the offense this week, Mitch, which, by the way, had a phenomenal week.
Yeah.
I think we're starting to see some of those things we've been hoping for. I thought Trey had a really strong week. JT had some moments this week. And that's 2 of the names we in particular have been very critical of over the last month or so. So just jumping right into those 2 before we start jumping into the rest of the offense. How did you feel about their week this week?
I think they're both trying to get it figured out. Trey still has a bit of lag with his barrel behind his head. JT doesn't get quite closed all the time. But when they do, this offense allows this pitching staff to go out there, take the mound, and know they can give up a run or 2, and the game's not over.
Yes.
That's what pitching and offense are. They have to complement each other. It's all about removing pressure. Whether it's removing pressure from the lineup, having to score 9 runs every night, or removing pressure from the starting pitchers, going out there and thinking, if I give up a run, I'm losing. No. They know they can give up 1 or 2 runs, and this offense is going to get those runs back. That's what a baseball team is. It's not all about pitching. It's not all about hitting. It's about the other side taking pressure off them.
Yeah, I agree, and I think a lot of guys up and down the lineup had strong weeks, and you see they're starting to really come around more consistently. Bryce has been hitting really well. Obviously, Castellanos is doing what he does overall. But yeah, getting Trey and having Trey and having JT start to turn it around, but particularly Trey, I thought had a really, really strong week this week. He was getting hits in every game, situational hits, driving runs in, scoring runs. And that's really all you could ask for him, particularly at this point when you're trying to figure it out, right? We're not worrying necessarily about the long ball. Worry about getting on base and driving runs in and situational hitting. I thought he had a really strong week.
The thing about Trey, if all he does is concentrate when he's up there, about his barrel
Mhm.
placement. As long as he knows where his barrel's at during the at bat, he don't have to think about hitting home runs.
Nope.
They're just going to come because he's got a good swing when he doesn't let his bat lag. And if JT's the same thing.
Mhm.
It's such a simple fix. If JT wants to stride the way he's striding, he's got to move up 3 or 4 inches on the plate. Then he can take that 4 inches open with his front side and still cover the outside third of the plate.
Yeah.
Where he stands right now, when he stays open with his stride, he can't cover the outside third.
Yeah.
So this is just, they're little things. And I say it every week. This game, you cannot go out there every day and do the exact same thing and expect to have results. I mean, look at Alec Boehm. Alec Boehm hit some baseballs this weekend right on the screws and had nothing to show for it. But he's not going to change his approach.
Mm.
He's barreling the baseball. And it goes right back to what we talked about for the last 6 weeks. The young guys, Stott and Boehm. Now, the young guys have pretty much carried this team along with Castellanos all year long offensively. And now Harper's starting to get his strength back. I said that he'd hit 7 home runs in August. I don't know how many he's got right now. I think he's got 10 or 11 right now, right?
Somewhere in there, he found his power stroke this month.
Well, he only had 5 home runs going into August.
Yeah.
It was all just a matter of Bryce getting stronger. Nothing wrong with his swing, nothing wrong with his approach. But when you see him hit a ball on the screws and you see his reaction at the plate 2 months ago when he thought he got it and then it would come up on the warning track.
Yeah.
They're not coming up on the warning track now.
Well, you're on the screws with him right now. He has 7 as of this month right now.
He does have 7?
Up to 12.
Okay, I said he'd hit 7 in August. He's probably going to hit more than 7. But
yeah,
this is a guy that hit 5 home runs he came back like May 4th or 5th, right?
Mm-hmm.
May, June, July. That's 3 months he hit 5 home runs. And he's got 7 in August.
Yeah.
He's getting strong at the right time. And that is something no one in baseball wants to see.
No.
Because this lineup, if Bryce gets hot, watch the rest of them follow. They're not going to be putting up 8 or 9 runs a game. They're going to be putting up 13 or 14.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if your MVP, your perennial MVP candidate starts hitting like he normally hits and just, again, gets healthy at the right time. And that's always the thing, Mitch. It's always about health. It's getting healthy at the right time. There are teams that will get off the fast starts who stay healthy through the All-Star break. And then a little bit after the All-Star break hits, they start having some guys break down, some pitching issues, and they fall apart in the second half, right? The Phillies seem to be one of those teams that the first 3 months roll out and it is a scuffle, whether it's injuries, whether it's guys who just are having mechanical issues. Last 2, maybe even 3 years, it really looks like that's the team. But when you start hitting mid-August, this team seems to lock in. And I think part of that is health-wise getting healthier as the season's going on.
Well, there's no question about that. They're getting. And I go back to the pitching staff. Rob Thompson's going to have 3 starters in the first series. And that means 2 of your starters are going to the bullpen. Well, if they put Ranger in the bullpen, he's going to come out of the bullpen. He's not going to be throwing 93, 94. Ranger has the ability to get it up there at 96, 97. And if he knows he's only going out there for an inning, he's going to let it fly. Sanchez is another kid. He's got more than enough fastball. So you got 2 long left-handers coming out of that bullpen in the postseason that have proven they can get big league hitters out on a regular basis. So Rob Thompson, right now, if I'm him, I'm sitting back in my office going, let's go. Let's just get to the postseason, then I can put everything together. They got a 3.5 game lead right now in the wild card.
Mm-hmm.
They just can't lose any. If they can get to that final week and they have a 5 or 6 game lead in that wild card. I don't care about the division. The division is done. Atlanta's the best team in baseball right now. They put a whooping on the Mets last year. The Mets were running away with that division. The Braves caught them. The Mets lost in the postseason, and then the Phillies beat the Braves in the postseason.
Yeah.
The Braves are a damn good team, don't get me wrong. But I think the closest team in baseball lineup-wise to the Braves is the Phillies. The Phillies have a lineup that you can put out. You got 9 guys that can hit the baseball with regularity.
Yeah. Let's stop here for a second. On the other side of this, I'm just going to do a quick read, show some love to Gleason's, and then we're going to dive back in. I want to talk about what the Phillies need to do to lock down this first wild card seed. But first, again, guys, make sure you check them out. Gleason'sBarandSteaks.com, or you can head over to their location, 1600 Mill Creek Ave in Levittown, PA. Let them know A2D sent you in. You're going to get 10% any orders in, dining in, takeout, or if you order online. Food is phenomenal. Make sure you guys check them out. Let them know your friends at A2D sent you over. Again, Gleason's Bar at Gleason'sBarandSteaks.com. Mitch, we talked about the pitching, everything you talked about. Obviously, the bats are starting to come around. They're getting stronger. So we talked about the division being kind of out of reach, right? So, and right. I think realistically, the wheels would have to absolutely come off of Atlanta, and that's not happening.
No, not the way it looks.
No,
they're deep.
Let's talk about the wild card here at this point. As you said, the Phillies are up in the wild card. I'm just trying to double check and make sure. I believe you're right. It's a 3.5 point or.
Yeah, I checked it right before I came on. They got a 3.5 game lead.
So we know they're gonna. We know that they're gonna probably skip a few starts in the rotation, try to give some guys some rest. What do we need at this point? With obviously you have Chicago's 3 game. So Chicago's 3 behind them for the 2 spot, but then you have a couple of teams kind of fighting. Looks like Arizona's sitting in there. You have San Francisco. Taking San Francisco, two of the 3 from San Francisco this week was big because, again, you said it last week. It's about gaining games, not staying pat.
Yeah, you don't want to be static, not in August and September. You want to gain. And when you have the opportunity to play a team that is close to you or above you, that's when you have to win. In order for the Phillies to get into the postseason healthy with a big lead in the wild card, when it comes down to that last week, in my opinion, they have to have a 6-game lead in that wild card. If they do that, that affords Rob Thompson every opportunity to sit back and look at the matchup they're going to have, which right now, I believe they would be playing the Brewers, would they not?
I believe Milwaukee would be their first matchup, yeah.
And they've shown they can beat the hell out of the Brewers. But it gives Rob Thompson a chance to set his rotation. Who does he want to face the Brewers? That kind of thing. And anytime you can give your manager that kind of flexibility as a team, you're giving yourselves a better chance to win.
Yeah, and I think, when I look at a team like the Brewers, and again, it's there's no disrespect, but when I look at the division and I look at what they've had to go against, I said this to I think a week or two ago. The Phillies in any other division pretty much are at the top of the heap, but they're in a division with Atlanta, who's just steamrolling everybody. But as critical as we could be sometimes with the Phillies, overall in Major League Baseball, they're one of the better. They're like a top 6 or 7 team in the entire league. In terms,
I can tell you this for a fact: there is not one pitcher in the game of baseball right now that wants to face the Phillies in the postseason.
Not the way they're hitting now.
Their lineup is too deep. I mean, you got Kyle Schwarber hitting $180 as your leadoff guy, and he's got 36 home runs. I'm sorry. Rob Thompson knows something, and he's hit 24-25 since Thompson moved him back to the leadoff spot.
Yeah, when he moved him out for a little while. Yeah,
and I disagreed with that wholeheartedly. I thought it was a bad move. I thought they should have left Stott up there. But what it's done is it's made Kyle comfortable again, And I'll be honest, I don't think Stott gives a damn where he hits in the lineup. He just goes up there to hit.
Yeah, no, that's true, and it's a weird thing with Schwarber because he's the most unorthodox leadoff hitter that you could really come across, but he always seems to produce more out of that spot than any other spot in the lineup.
Well, he hit 46 last year.
Yeah.
He's going to do that again this year.
Mhm.
He's got another month. It wouldn't surprise me to see him hit 45 or 46 again this year. And if that's the case, the Phillies got a really good chance going into the postseason. They got a chance to go back to the World Series this year.
Yeah, I think that's the key, right? I think obviously postseason is a shoe-in, in my opinion, at this point. But I think they have a real legitimate chance to get back to the World Series. Now, Atlanta's a tough team, so facing them, and they always seem to give the Phillies trouble. That's a tough matchup. If you can get somebody to do your dirty work for you at some point, that would be phenomenal. Because I don't think there's anybody else in the National League, honestly, that in a series with a short rotation that can beat.
No, they don't match up.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see a pitching staff, with the exception of maybe Houston,
Mm-hmm.
that can match up with our lineup.
Yeah, and I think the one thing with the Phillies too is they've proven that regardless in a playoff series, they do really well at making adjustments game to game. And
Yep.
I think that having that experience, tons of playoff and World Series experience in this lineup, I think is going to be a huge benefit to them going into the postseason this year.
Well, and the X factor is going to be again this year.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Nick Castellanos the year he had last year. Nick sucked at the plate. And in the postseason, defensively, he saved 2 games in the
Yeah,
postseason.
he did.
So he found out what the X factor in Philadelphia truly is, and that's that fan base. Nobody, and I mean nobody, wants to come here or come to Philly and play the Phillies at Citizens Bank. They know what that crowd's going to be like, and more so, the home players, the Phillies, know what that crowd's going to be like, and they're aching to feel the way they felt last year. You can see it just in the way they're playing the game now. And I looked at them at the beginning of the year, and to me, it looked like they were just going out there. And in the game of baseball, you cannot just throw your glove on the field and expect to win.
Mm-mm.
Yes, they went to the World Series last year. April and May, they didn't look like a World Series team from the year before.
No.
Now, from the start of June, they've looked like a World Series team.
Yeah. Yeah, and I saw I saw Greg mention below the Dodgers. Don't discount the Dodgers; they're red hot. See, to me, the Dodgers do this every year, though. Like maybe they're kicking it in a little bit later, but I look at the Dodgers, and as great as their lineup always is, there's just always something that's kind of missing, and I kind of feel the same way about that team this year. I don't feel as like the last 2 years. I thought, man, it's going to be really tough for anybody to beat the Dodgers. But like I almost feel like they're just kind of one of the teams at the top tier, but I don't feel the dominance from them, even though they're playing really, really well. And there's a lot of experience in that lineup.
There's a lot of experience.
I don't fear that team like you would usually fear the Dodgers, though.
I have never gotten a sense from a Dodgers organization, from any team with the Dodgers, that the chemistry is there. I just don't look at that team and feel like, oh, they're 25 guys all on the same end of the rope heading in the same direction. They have gone out and spent so much money on free agent players. Are they talented? You're damn right they're talented. But does it mean they can play as a team? How many times they won the World Series since they started buying every player they could buy? One. That's it.
You could
And it
argue
goes,
they should have had a second, maybe, but one for sure.
you can go back to Steinbrenner. He tried for years to buy a team. You can buy players, but you can't buy a team. The team has to come together on its own and gel on its own and learn to coexist with each other. It's like the last day of the season. Every year, the clubhouse, everyone said the same thing. Damn, after tomorrow, I get to choose my friends. Because you're stuck in a clubhouse with 25 guys that are supposed to be your friends and warriors in the foxhole with you.
Yeah.
Well, when you don't get along or you have a terrible season, trust me when I tell you, in 92 with the Phillies, I had my hunting magazines out in July. That's how bad we were. And
Yeah.
you can always tell in a clubhouse when your team is out of the race because there'll be hunting magazines. Guys don't stop and talk. They don't talk about the game. There's no cohesiveness. I don't believe I've ever seen that from a Dodger team.
That's a fair point. And I'm going to actually pick up on this because I have a little drop in myself on the other side. But first, let's hear from RTC.
Yeah, let's do.
Mitch Williams here. If your company ships freight, join my winning team at Raymond Transportation Corporation. Let us become part of your team. RTC has been serving shippers nationwide for 26 years. With 10 terminals located throughout the U.S., volume LTL, small LTL, truckload, and rail. You can count on RTC to be the closer you need. I know firsthand that the Delaware Valley demands accountability. Call me at 800-206-3983 to schedule a meeting. Give me one shipment, and we will earn the rest.
That's a fact.
So, yeah, make sure you guys, all your freight needs, shipping needs, make sure you hit up RTC and also obviously Gleason's as well, right? Hit them up. If you go into their location, 6700 Mill Creek Ave, Levittown, PA, let them know A2D sent you in, or if you order online for anything, take out Gleason'sBarandSteaks.com, 10% off your orders on the A2D fam. So, but Mitch, we're talking about the Dodgers, right? And we're talking about the chemistry and different things like that, right? So I look at the Dodgers, and I think part of why I look at this team and I just don't feel the fear. They lost a lot of pieces that they really had that were core pieces over the last couple of years. Trey Turner was a big piece. Seager was a big piece. He was Justin Turner, who was a cornerstone of that organization, was a big piece. Now, I know they've added other guys, and listen, they obviously have Mookie, who's one of the best players on the planet. But that being said, I look at the team and, they bought Kershaw back and a lot of these other guys, but I look at the division they're in, right? Like I look at the Central, right? And I think that the Central is what it is because I don't think the teams are very good, right?
Right.
So it's easy. But then see, I look at obviously the Dodgers have done really well, but see, San Diego's been a massive disappointment, right?
Huge.
The biggest disappointment in Major League Baseball, and I don't even think it's close.
And there's a case in point of exactly what I'm talking about, Chrome. Machado, Tatis, Soto. That's three guys that you should be able to sprinkle throughout that lineup and have an ass load of RBIs. They don't play well together. That's all there is to it. I don't think they like each other. Just by the way I see them on TV, I just don't see whole lot of love for each other. Now, you go back to our team in 93, that's what carried us through. There is zero chance we had the ability of the Braves or Toronto. Not even close. Mm-hmm. What made us good was the fact that we were all going in the same direction. Mm-hmm. And we all love to play together.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. There's something definitely missing, and it's not talent. So there has to be some other piece that's there. And again, when you look at, Machado has definitely not had a Machado type of year. And even their starting rotation, lots of pieces in that starting rotation. And there's just a lot missing there. A lot to be desired for a team that has spent a lot of money, similar to what the Mets did. We're talking about teams spending money, right, to be better. I just look at that division, right? Like I think Arizona's a team that's going to be a force to be reckoned with over the next couple of years. I think that San Francisco's a tough matchup. Whether I don't know if they're going to be a World Series contender, but in the West they always seem to be a pesky team that hangs there. I think, and this might be controversial overall, I think Gabe learned a lot from his first run here. I think they're managed well with how that team is constructed. They have the right guy, at least for now, at the helm. I just don't feel like the Dodgers are like a team that like blows me out of the water. Now
No.
Atlanta scares the hell out of me. I think they could be really tough. There's a couple teams that I think could be real pesky. Chicago might be a pesky team too when I look at them.
Well, pesky's one thing. The ability to go out and beat a team in a series.
Sure.
When I look at LA, I've always looked at LA the same way. It's a city full of distractions.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all it is. I mean, you got movie stars, you got Hollywood, you got all the beaches, you have all that garbage out there to distract you from what your ultimate goal is. And if you look at what the Dodgers have done in the postseason when they've gotten there for the last 5 or 6 years, I mean, they've been just unbelievable in the regular season. But now you get to postseason and all the stars come out and it's one big distraction when you get to the postseason. Because there's a lot of people, movie stars ain't going to come out to a Wednesday night game in June. It doesn't mean anything. But come the postseason, it becomes a huge social event out there, and the distractions for the players are way bigger than they are on the East Coast because the fans on the East Coast, they don't give a damn who you are, what you did. They are at that game to cheer on their team. And the Phillies know this. They know what their fan base expects. And last year, I don't doubt for a second, that fan base is what carried them through those first 2 series.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's a different environment, and I think that's why when you come to Northeast teams, like playoff time, it's a whole different environment. It is an electricity, and I know that's like
yes, people don't understand that on the left coast. I've always said you start east and you head west. The Midwest Cubs, Cardinals, great fans. They show up regardless if you're winning or losing. The further west you go, it becomes a social event.
Mm-hmm.
They don't care about getting there for first pitch. They don't care about being there for last pitch. They just want to be seen at the game.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when you come to Philadelphia, Boston, and New York, you have people that are mortgaging their homes to buy season tickets. Mm-hmm. That's the difference. There ain't anybody in LA mortgaging their home to buy season tickets.
It's so true. But yeah, so big week coming this past week for the Phillies. Obviously, picked up some ground because I think they were. I mean, it was only a game, but I think they were 2.5 coming in to the week. So you're still gaining ground regardless, whatever it is.
That's all it's about, Chrome. If you take 6 games off the schedule, and when those 6 games are off the schedule, you have a bigger lead than you had before you played those 6 games. That's what it's about in September. Just don't play 6 games and lose a game in the standings. Always try and add on. If you add on, like I said, the flexibility factor it gives Rob Thompson in the postseason is marked. Believe me.
Absolutely, yeah. And obviously this week, I think it's another week for them that could be really favorable. You know, obviously we have the Angels coming in. No Trout, no Ohtani, at least pitching wise. Now he might still be hitting, but you don't have to face him on the mound. So I think that's going to be.
This guy is rewriting what baseball is all about.
It's crazy.
It is. It's nuts. I mean, he's got last I saw, he's got 44 home runs.
Yeah, I'm gonna look. I'm curious.
And to be able to be in that lineup every day and then pitch every 5th day, they ain't gonna be able to pay that man.
Listen, I mean, people say, "Oh, he's the modern day Babe Ruth. He's better than Babe Ruth was."
He's much better than Babe Ruth was. And I'm not saying as a hitter, but as a pitcher, this kid knows how to pitch. And he obviously knows how to hit. He's hitting over 300. How do you pay that?
Yeah.
Because you're going to have to pay him as a starting pitcher. Say you want him for 10 years as a starting pitcher. That's going to cost you $400 million. Then you want him 10 years as a hitter. That's going to cost you $400 million.
Yeah.
That's an $800 million man.
Yeah. And I don't know if they'll get to that, because I think the concern for pitching wise is I don't know that it's believed he'll make it 10 years, but he could be the first $600-700 million man.
Oh, there's no question. Before it's all said and done, he will be the highest paid player ever in the game of baseball.
And I think the two with that is, he can't even be like a guy that's like a standard for anything, because there's no standard for him.
There ain't no comp out there for him. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
How are organizations going to negotiate that contract? Because there is no comp.
No.
What's his record on the mound?
Well, so you were right. 40 at the plate. He's got 44 homers, 92 RBIs, 305 with an OPS of 1075 on the mound. Pitching wise, I'll give you his pitching stats in a second. I mean, it's a shame that his year had to end because he has to have that surgery. But oh man, some of these are really funny. His pitching stats are, for the regular season, they keep giving me his hitting stats here, even though I typed in pitching. He is 10-5 with a 3.14 ERA and 167 strikeouts, a WHIP of 106 in 23 games.
23 starts. How many innings has he thrown?
132.
So he's going to get close to 200 innings.
Well, I think he's done pitching, right?
He's done?
He's done for the year pitching, but he's still going to hit. So he has to have elbow. So that's why I think that's going to kind of maybe create a little bit of the hesitation on the pitching side, where he may not make it to 800 million. But I mean, he's still going to be able to pitch. So I'm trying to, I'm looking here, and it's funny because everybody's saying he's going to be calling the shots in free agency.
Oh, there's no question. When you look at Artie Moreno out there with the Angels, another case in point. He went out and got Pujols, spent $300 million on him. Then he signed Trout to over a $400 million contract. What's he going to do with Ohtani? I don't know that you can pay three guys. Well, Pujols obviously is off the books, but
right.
You got Trout and him. I promise you, between the two of them, they are going to represent $1 billion out of the owner's pocket.
Oh my God, yeah.
Because there's no way Ohtani's getting less than 600.
No, and I mean that's an organization that spends money, right?
Yeah, they're not but that's to my point.
CJ Wilson, Josh Hamilton's.
Yeah, you can spend all the money you want. You can't buy a team.
Mm-mm.
No, you have to put guys around those guys to make a team.
No, I mean, you have two of the best players in baseball. Like two of the supers, the faces of
baseball. Of the top 5 players in baseball.
And if there are games where they could score 9 runs and those guys could go 4 for 4 and they lose the game 12-9.
You know, we did that back in '86 with the Rangers. We built an offense that could score 10 runs a game and a pitching staff that gave up 11. And that's what I'm talking about frustration and pressure. That lineup for the Angels knows they have to go out and put up 10 runs every night in order to have a chance to win.
Yeah.
And that pitching staff should be ashamed of itself, with the exception of Ohtani.
Yeah. So it looks like his pitching is done. He's going to be out for a little bit. So he has a UCL tear. So he's going to need surgery. But
he's going to have Tommy John.
But they believe he's going to be able to hit.
Well, look at Bryce.
Yeah. So I think he's going to have to get the surgery done first, and then he can hit, or maybe he can hit, and then they'll do the surgery in the offseason. But they do think he's going to be out a little bit. So I don't believe he's playing in this series against the Phillies.
Well, that don't hurt their chances. That's for sure.
No,
that should be a sweep.
I'm pretty sure Trout's out as well. So
yeah, he's hurt.
So, you're looking at a very winnable series where
it should be a sweep. It shouldn't be a winnable series. They should, without Ohtani and Trout, they should sweep that series.
Yeah.
That's all there is to it.
Yeah.
You take those two guys out of that lineup and off that mound, I'm sorry. The Angels are not a good baseball team.
No, they're not a good baseball team, not especially particularly without those two guys. And then I look obviously at then coming in after that, you're going to have you have Milwaukee, and Milwaukee is another team who, again, I feel like is kind of a little bit of a poser at this point because I just think they're benefiting. They're a good team, but I think they're benefiting a lot from being in a really weak division to where I think that they are a team that, even though they're a division leader, is another. I don't want to put back-to-back sweeps on the Phillies. There's no reason they can't come out of this week at 5-1. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, it should absolutely be a repeat of last week at a minimum.
Yeah. Especially if Aaron Nola is showing signs of turning things around, and you're going to get more of that consistency through the entire bullpen, or I'm sorry, the rotation. I think that's a huge, huge case for them to where that, yeah, they should be able to come out of this week and make up at least, maybe cover another game, maybe 2 games in that wild card race.
Yeah, if they could pick up another game after this week, if they add on to their lead. Remember when I talked about the trip to Miami
Yes.
and how that series, it was a 4-game series.
Mm-hmm.
The Phillies had a chance to go down. They were a game back of Miami in a wild card. What they did to Miami, taking 3 or 4 down there, they ended Miami's season exactly like I thought it was going to happen. Because Miami's now, they're only 2 games over 500, I believe.
Yeah.
And you look at that, and that's what you do to teams.
One game over 500 now.
Oh, they're 1 game over. I knew they had dropped off a bunch.
They definitely dropped off.
That all started right after the Phillies took 3 out of 4 from them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how you win and get into the postseason. You take all these teams that think they're a postseason team, and then you go play a team that actually is a postseason team, and they stomp a mud hole in your ass and walk it dry. That messes with your mind. And that's exactly what happened to Miami.
Yeah, well, so the thing too to look at for the Phillies this week, if they could have a really big week like last week and at least go 5-1, right? All the teams that are right behind them in the wild card race are either playing each other or they have tough matchups, right? So you look at Chicago, the Cubs, who are in the second wild card slot right now. They're 3 games behind the Phillies. They have Milwaukee to start the week, and then they go against Cincinnati, who's a team that's right on that fringe for the 3.5 spot, right? So they're going to beat up on each other. And then you're going to look back, and then if you look at actually Arizona, who's the team I think sitting in that 3.5 spot behind, they have I think Baltimore this week and the Dodgers. So that's 2 tough matchups this week.
How about
Really
Baltimore?
Baltimore's one of the best stories in baseball. I mean, it's about time. You felt like it had to happen, kind of similar to Houston back in the day, right? You get so many number 1 and number 2 overall draft picks. You got to hope at some point these guys are going to start coming and clicking at the right time, right? Well, Baltimore's been a phenomenal story in baseball.
Oh, God, yeah. And I'm happy for them. I mean, Baltimore used to be a great baseball town, and then it went through an unbelievable dry spell. So to see them playing the way they are now, I'm happy for that.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite stadiums to go to catch a ball game. If you ever get a chance, you are in that Baltimore Harbor area, definitely go and check out an Orioles game, whether you're a fan or not. It is an experience. It's really great to go to games there. But yeah, I mean, Baltimore and Tampa really in that division, right? To see those 2 teams with all the money that gets spent by the New York Yankees and the Boston Red Sox and all these different teams, Tampa does it year in and year out. It's crazy. It is crazy.
Because they've always done it right. When they had Friedman as their general manager, he's another one of these bookworm guys, one of the Ivy League guys. But I always said that he did a great job of hiring baseball people.
Mm-hmm.
He surrounded himself, whether it was Joe Madden, all these baseball guys, he's got a table surrounded with great baseball people, and he's the money man. And how he handled it, go out and find me the best player you can find at this price.
Mhm.
And that's exactly what the baseball people did. That's why Tampa was able to compete. They play in a horrible stadium. It looks like a UFO that crashed out in the middle of the desert.
It is. It is interesting to go to a game there.
It is morbid to go to a game there. The 2008 World Series, oh my gosh. It was
Did,
like walking into one of the worst minor league parks I ever played in.
did you get a chance to pitch there or no?
No.
Was that a little bit after you were done?
Yeah, I never pitched in that stadium.
Good
And
for
I'm not
you.
upset about it.
No, good for
They're
you.
they're the only team with artificial turf that had a disease in their artificial turf.
What?
I mean, you know how grass can get a disease and it dies?
Yeah.
Well, there's patches all over that turf field that look like the turf just died. It's just a horrible place to play.
This is the first
So,
time hearing that. It doesn't shock me.
no.
God knows what's growing in the walls in that place.
I mean, anytime you play in a stadium where you have to have ground rules based on a ball hitting a catwalk,
Yeah.
there's an issue.
Yeah.
The stadium was built for hockey.
Yeah.
That's what it was built for. It was not built to play baseball in.
I went to my first game there like 3 years ago. And I remember walking in and I walked around like I did like during one or two of the innings, I did like just a walk around just to see what was there's nothing there, by the way.
No.
It's generic food. There's not much there.
It smells like your grandmother's house when you walk into it.
And it's weird. Like we were on the third base side and like I was having a conversation and I swear to you, I could hear and I mean tickets aren't very expensive. So we sat pretty low, third base side, and I could hear people not talking loudly, but still hear their conversations 3 sections over because there was barely anybody there. It was bizarre. And they were a division leader at the time when I was there, which is what makes it actually made me sad to see, Mitch, because you know those guys who go out there and put everything out there. I mean, you know the experience, right? And particularly for those young guys to perform the way that they perform and have nobody there to support it. It makes
back in 2008, Chrome, I'm gonna come up with the numbers, but the night before Tampa clinched the AL East, there was, I think, 7,000 people in the stands. The next night, for the chance they had to clinch, they had 40-something thousand.
Yeah,
and I'm like,
weird.
you just can't. That's not a fan base.
No.
That's a bunch of bandwagon jumpers. Oh, we're going to show up for the playoffs. Well, that's what kind of fans you have down there. Same thing in Miami. I did a game for Fox in Miami. I could have set a bomb off in that stadium and no one would have got hurt.
It's crazy.
I mean, unbelievable.
Yeah.
So I look at all that stuff. Fan base has a lot to do with your players and how they perform, the expectation level. And there's just never been an expectation level down there.
No, and I think too that, yeah, it's great if they show up playoff time and stuff like that, but like players aren't stupid. They know.
No.
They could feed off that energy knowing like these people were our, the quote unquote ride or dies through the whole year. They were sitting out here in left field giving us shit when we weren't playing up to how we should be playing.
Oh, yeah.
They were cheering for us and having us tip our caps when we were hitting. But when you're playing in the stadium where you're getting 6, 7, 8,000 people and then 40,000 show up, like, yeah, hey, it's great to have the stands filled and there's an energy there, but it's not the same as having those fans come back and support you game in and game out.
Look, the vet held 63,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
In 92, we sucked. I think we still got 25,000 people a night.
I believe it.
And that's just so they can show up and tell you you're shitty. That's the thing I love about Philly. Philly will pay a ticket price just to show up and tell you how bad you suck.
It's true.
And if you have a good game, they're going to tell you how good you are. That's the whole thing I've always loved about Philly. If you don't want an honest answer, don't ask a question you don't want to hear the answer to.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Eric says most of the Florida pro teams are bandwagon fan base. They care more about the college sports than pro. I think there's an element to that. Now, when you look at like the Dolphins, I think have always had a strong hardcore fan base football wise, because even though they've stunk over the last 20 years, they still sell tickets. But There's a couple exceptions. I just don't think, for some reason, because it's a sport played all year round down in Florida too. I don't know why it seems like baseball just doesn't catch down there with the fans.
Well, I can tell you, I have not been to the new Marlins Stadium,
Mm-hmm.
but I've been in the one in Tampa. If I was a fan, I would go to a Marlins game just because it's a decent atmosphere. I mean, when they first built it, it looked like a carnival,
Yeah.
but it's a decent place to watch a game. If there wasn't a postseason game on the line in Tampa, I can tell you there's zero chance I'd go to a game there.
Yeah.
They have got to build a new stadium for that team.
Yeah, it's weird. Like there's not even much around it either. Like, you know what I mean? To make an experience out of it. And that's the one thing, right? Like one of my goals is to go and see every team play in their home park by the time I'm, gone. And I've gotten just about half of the teams. And part of it is I don't mind seeing a team that stinks. I don't even mind if the facility isn't great, but give me something around the ballpark at least to make an experience of the day. Maybe I go somewhere to eat before, or I go somewhere to eat after. It's like I mean, actually the stadium is really beautiful, but when you go to Colorado, right? When you go to the Rockies, there's a whole couple blocks out there. It's almost like Wrigley Field, like Wrigley, where
Wrigleyville, yeah.
Couple blocks out there where you can go and there's bars and restaurants and it's a game day vibe. Like I was surprised with how bad the Rockies are. How many people were out there early game day, like walking around the streets and then going to the game. And because they created an environment that it makes you want to go. But there's
you know what Tampa reminds me of, Chrome?
What's that?
Old Montreal Stadium.
Oh, okay.
Oh my God.
I know what it looked like from the outside, so I could see that.
You want to talk about a bad place to play. Number one, it's in Montreal, where hockey is king.
It's everything, yeah.
I'm telling you, a guy from the Expos could hit a triple. They wouldn't even clap because it wasn't a goal.
Yeah.
Once they step on home plate, goal, that's a goal. Okay, they're going to applaud. We clinched there in 89. I'm on the mound, and for the 3-day series, they have a noise meter that shows you how loud the stadium gets. I promise you, in 3 days there, the loudest that noise meter went was when Mike Bilecki, one of our pitchers, barked like a dog from the dugout, and the meter went way up. They just don't appreciate baseball in Montreal. That's why they obviously moved them.
Yeah.
We pulled up there one day for first game of a series, and the stadium fell down. There were concrete columns falling off that stadium.
I remember hearing about this, actually.
Oh, it was unbelievable.
Yeah, that's scary. Imagine if that happened during a game.
Oh, I'd have run right to the second base because I don't think anything would have been able to reach me from there.
Jeez Louise.
Yeah, but this is what the game's about. If you want to make money in this game as an owner, you better start lobbying to get a new stadium.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and look at the stadiums they built just since I retired.
Yeah.
The Texas Rangers, I played in old Arlington Stadium. The ballpark at Arlington was then built. It's already been torn down.
Mm-hmm.
They built another new stadium there. It's unbelievable. They let a stadium get 10 years old and then tear it down. And you go to Philly and look at Citizens Bank. I don't care what anybody says. That's one of the best places in baseball to watch a game.
It is.
It's got the best food in all of baseball. The stadium still looks brand new. They have no reason to tear it down. The people here in Philly love that stadium. They love to go watch a game. But as much as we love our stadium, think about how Tampa feels and being a fan of that team. Would you want to walk into that morbid morgue every single day to watch a baseball game?
No. I mean, even just a player to have to go in there and play in a game, I feel like it's like a Debbie Downer.
I hated every dome ever built. Could not stand it.
That was my first time in a dome. I had never seen a ball game in a dome. And I think
I hated the Astrodome. The Metrodome in Minneapolis, I can tell you this for a fact, with 55,000 people in that Metrodome, Dutch, or I can't remember who the catcher was, came out to talk to me. I could not hear him speaking to me on the mound.
Wow, that loud.
That
Huh?
stadium was that loud.
Wow. It's wild to think about. Yeah, I mean, for me, just off the top of my head, of the stadiums I've been to, Candlestick.
Oh,
Let me see.
worst fans ever.
Not Candlestick, Camden Yards. Not Candlestick, Camden Yards.
Camden Yards is fun to go to.
Camden Yards. PNC was a lot of fun. I don't know what they call it now, but Safeco Field in Seattle was a lot of fun. The Phillies is a top one. And then I would probably go St. Louis.
I'll tell you what, San Francisco Stadium, now that's a great place to watch a baseball game.
I haven't gone yet. I want to. I hear it's up there with the top 2 or 3. So.
It's a beautiful ballpark. Really is. Compared
Mitch,
to Candlestick was horrible.
Yeah. Mitch, great conversation this week, buddy. I think we have high expectations again for the Phillies this week to cover a little bit of ground. I think you, just to round it out, you said 5-1 this week.
At least.
I'm with you, 5-1. I think next week we're taking off because obviously we have the holiday next weekend. So I believe we're taking off next week.
Well, if we do, just let me know.
Yeah, I believe we're going to take off next week, but if not, we'll see you then. If we do, we'll see you in 2 weeks. Tom will be back with us. But for myself, for Mitch, thank you to Gleason's and obviously RTC, Gleason, 6700 Mill Creek Ave in Levittown, PA. Let them know we sent you 10% off, or if you go online, gleasonsbarandsteaks.com, use the promo code A2D, get your 10% off. Obviously, RTC, any kind of shipping, freight needs on anything you got there, make sure you hit them up, 800-206-3983. Mitch is going to guide you in that right direction.
Yeah, if you need it shipped, we'll get it there.
There it is. So, but thanks again, Mitch. Great talking to you this week.
You bet, Chrome. Everybody have a great week, and hopefully we come back next week and they got a 6-game lead in the wild card.
Absolutely. And Ralph on the back end, thank you for the job that you do week in and week out.
Thank you, Ralphie.
Check out all the shows here on A2D Radio this week. Coming up on Eagles season, lots to talk about with that. So for myself, for Mitch Williams here, Tom Arnone, who's not on with us this week, and obviously Ralphie and everybody here, take care, give someone a hug, and have a great week.